Brighton with his wife Donna and has 4 adult children. Please welcome Mayor Alex Del Porto to address us on Bayside's 2017-18 budget and strategic plan.
Thank you, Ken. And by the way, I'm impressed by the amount of gold you've got rattling around you. We actually don't have a gold chain, but you know that's very impressive. And I'd like to say thank you for inviting me here today and for allowing me to talk to former councillors and former mayors John Knight and Ken Beadle and many others. I only saw 2 of them, and so well done. Of course, we meet on the traditional lands of the Burrum people of the Kulin Nation. We respect our elders past and present. We acknowledge that together we share a responsibility to nurture the land and sustain it for future generations. I might take that off if that's okay.
You have to say that.
Sorry?
Do you have to say that?
We do, yes.
I
Thank you for inviting me along today. I'm going to provide an update on Council's budget for 2017-18, but also look back on the history that has brought us to this point. Very kind of you to call me the father of the house. I wouldn't go that far. I'm not that old, but anyway. I did join council in 1987. I wasn't involved in any council before amalgamation, and I just thought I'd have a go at it after 1994. I door knocked my little ward because we had separate wards at the time, and I got in that way. Council held the first election in 1997 for the newly merged Brighton, Sandringham, some of the old Moorabbin and one of the old councils. The first thing we were told was the council had a debt of over $12 million. 7.5 from the old Sandringham Council, 3.5 from the old Brighton Council. Point of interest, the best run council with no debts at all was the old Moorabbin Council, which was rewarded by being split up among Glen Eira, Kingston and Bayside, and it disappeared. The commissioners decided to invest in the new Brighton Library, which cost over $1 million, which was a good idea, but also added to the growing debt. In addition, Bayside Council has had to face the continuing financial threat of the defined benefit of Vision Super, and accountants like John Knight will know what I'm talking about. Every few years, Vision Super will place a call on Bayside, and in fact, all councils in Victoria for funds to top up their defined benefits. Kennett abolished them in 1994, which was a good move, but there are offices still on the old and very generous scheme all around Victoria that have cost our council over the last 20 years $6 million. This is the equivalent of 2 brand new pavilions or a library which we could have built with that money. In early 2010, Council owed $17.5 million and was paying back $1 million a year in interest. This had to stop. I was mayor that year, so I remember going to the CEO's office and asking him to start thinking about doing that with the support of fellow councillors in the next financial year. We started to pay some of it off. We paid off $1.5 million that first year from memory. Wasn't easy, but once we got on a new council in 2012, it became easier because more councils were interested in the bottom line. And the good news is that we have announced in this new budget that by January next year, we will be completely debt-free for the first time in the history of Bayside, given the history that we come from. So I we have now started rebuilding our pavilions, which are all 50 to 60 years old. Yesterday I helped break ground for the new pavilion at Elstonwick Park North at Oval 1, and later this week I will be opening the new pavilion at Denby Park. It's the BAFA ground at Elstonwick Park North. We put in about $1.5 million, $2 million, and the state government and BAFA put in about 6. The one at Denby Park, it's all your money. It's about $3 to $4 million that we needed. Of course we need new pavilions because girls are now playing sports much more than ever before, which is a great thing. I'm sure that your daughters and granddaughters are happy to hear that. There's a lot of demand for soccer and for football. So every new pavilion will, without even a second thought, will have both girls and boys change rooms, so that girls and boys can change in safety and comfort. It's been, in a way, a good thing that we've waited this long to start rebuilding. Glen Eira Council, with no debts when they first amalgamated, started building pavilions about 8, 9, 10 years ago. but now they're retrofitting all their toilets to have change rooms for boys and girls. Since we've waited this long, we now don't have to do that, so it's a bit of a saving for us. We have another 8 pavilions in the planning and construction phase. There's Banksia Reserve, I think, will be just about ready to go in the next couple of months as well. Of course, we have the Brighton Life Saving Club that you might be aware of it near Denny Street Beach. That's a pavilion that needs rebuilding. When it's a stormy day, the kids have to change on the floor where there's water bubbling from a stormwater drain. It's a disgrace. We have tourists that go there by the hundreds of thousands per year. I know it sounds incredible, but we've actually done some sums, and there's a lot of tourists there. They go and look at the bathing boxes, take photos, then they turn around and they look at that derelict building, and it's really, not a good thing. We've been taken to VCAT by residents who have a right to do that. Some of them might have an interest because they actually live on Beach Road. Some of them don't want any change at all. The VCAT member has been not that supportive of council between us. Again, it's all within the laws. They are now requiring us to provide a permit for the use of the building as a life-saving club, even though it's been there for 80 years. So we now have to prove that the use is for the life-saving club. We also have to provide a permit for the cafe as well. There's also a function room, which is where the kids we're meant to change and train inside. We have to also get a permit for use for that. But anyway, it's going to cost us $250,000 of your money to defend that position. But we feel strongly that the kids need a new change room, and the state needs a great new facility so that we're not embarrassed when tourists come and have a look at it. We've achieved this strong financial situation by paying off the debt, and also we're embarking on this building program that will bring significant positive change for our community. I'll mention something a bit later about that too. We have some of the services we provide. We have 200,000 calls received per annum, $11,000 registered each year, 3,000 children immunised, 355 kilometres of local roads maintained, 1,200 planning applications, 62,000 planning related phone calls each year, 20,000 building inquiries by phone or front counter, nearly 2,000 inspections of food premises, 142,000 hours of home care and support for older and disabled residents, 40,000 meals, 1 million library items borrowed each year, 2,500 trees planted each year, and a strong program of local arts and culture that constitutes only 0.7% of our total budget, so that you don't think we're spending all our money on the arts. The 2017-18 budget will deliver a record $45.7 million investment in new and upgraded community infrastructure. This is the first instalment in a 4-year, $162 million plan to transform our community. The $128 million operating budget delivers a strong operating surplus of $23 million, which will be entirely spent on the capital program. The increase in the cost of services has been contained to 2.4% through achieving $1.3 million in savings, efficiency and additional revenue. This comes off the back of 3 previous years of savings, taking the total for 4 years to $6.1 million. When we got elected, the council for this one got elected in 2012, we had been told up to that point that rates have to go up by 5.5% per year, or we will not be able to provide the services we are providing today. It's amazing how when the numbers go in a certain way, council officers find the savings required. Within those 4 years, we've actually found more than $6 million savings from the operational cost of council staff. So that's one of the drivers for us being able to rebuild our pavilions as well. As I said, they were extracted only after the 2012 budget, when officers knew that 5.5 rate increase per year was off the table. We've been told that council couldn't go on with it at all if we reduced those increases to less than 5.5, but that clearly was not the case. In 2012, councillors like me wanted to see officers tighten the belt and finally had the numbers. Highlights of this budget, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, $11.7 million investment for upgrades to pavilions at Banksia Reserve, Elsternwick Park Oval 1, Cheltenham Park, Dendy Park, Castleford Reserve and Chisholm Reserve. This follows the completion of the Hurlingham Park Pavilion and Park upgrade, which has been a wonderful thing for local community and sports club last year. There'll be a $3 million upgrade to shopping centres, including Sandringham Village, upgrades to Hawthorn Village in Brighton East and the Hyde Road Activity Centre, $3 million to commence work on the exciting new Denton Street Beach Pavilion, which hasn't started yet because of the BCAT issue. $2.2 million will be spent on footpaths and bike paths, including safety improvements and widening the Bay Trail and Middle Brighton Baths. $1.18 million to upgrade playgrounds at Beach Park North Road, Dendy Park and the Yacht Reserve. This puts council on track to have completed 22 of the 61 playground upgrades identified in its 10-year program 2015-25. A couple of years ago we decided to, instead of having arguments about which playground should be done in which year, we just decided to put away $10 million to do that over the next 10 years, and we're doing that now. We're at arm's length from it, so it doesn't get tribal about, look, I want something in my ward, not your ward. It just sort of, it's removed from councillors, and I think that's a good thing. We've got $1.68 million for upgrades to libraries, including Sandringham Library and the Brighton Library. $1.5 million to harvest stormwater at the Brighton Golf Course for the golf course at Dendy Park. I don't know if you're aware of it. It hasn't been completed yet, but it will be a great thing for Dendy Park and for the golf course there. We've actually discovered 168 turtles as well, which we're housing somewhere. They'll be put back in the huge big lake that we're building as well. The total investment in this project is $2.95 million and is one of Council's largest sustainability project to date. The drinking water we currently use to water the golf course at Dendy Park will be replaced with diverted stormwater, which will be filtered through three of these pond big lakes. And you've heard about the turtles. We've also spending $500,000 on public toilets at Osmond Park South and South East Street, Sandringham. Rates and rate capping. Rates will rise by 2 to 2.5% in line with the state government rate cap, and I embrace the rate capping as we can continue to finance our pavilion by building program. If the rates stay at 2 to 2.5%, we can probably sustain the building program for the next 5 to 6 years, but then we'll run out of reserves. So, but at this stage we're doing fine. We're doing much better than most other councils. We don't need any support from the government. We've saved our money and we're selling a little bit of land here and there that we don't need, and we are continuing to build. I want to say something about the, I'll mention it now, the Syra site. I don't know if you heard of it, the Syra site. The government wants to sell the land there. We've been very fortunate with Andrew Robb and others before him. We're actually able to get 4 hectares of land for passive use for free. We're intending to buy at commercial rates around about 0.3 of a hectare because we want to build a library there. We feel that first of all, the location is probably better. We don't want to have libraries, all libraries at Bayside within 500 metres of the beach. There are people that live not that close to the beach who are, also deserve to have a library. Hyde and Hampton East is an area that has quite a lot of housing commission flats and people that don't have the iPhones and iPads and computers that other families have. The library we have in mind to build, which we haven't bought the land yet, but we think that it's happening, will be more than a library. We visited libraries at Docklands and the City of Yarra, and they're really community drop-in centres for young people, for young mums. There's a little cafe downstairs. You've got 3D printers, which are like these amazing printers that, I still don't understand how they work. They've got little theatres. So if we did have a little theatre there, you could actually have something that we need down in Belmaris as well, a place for people to gather and entertain themselves. Books, there are all kinds of things. So they're really wonderful things. They're not cheap. The one in the City of Yarra that I was invited to by the Mayor of Yarra, who is a very nice lady called Amanda Stone, cost them $18 million. They compulsory bought the land in North Fitzroy. They received $1 million from the state government and $17 million was their money. The local minister, Richard Wynne, actually opened it seemed to be very proud of the fact that he helped, which was good. The one at Docklands cost $40 million. That's a huge one, right on the water. I don't think we'll spend anything like that sort of money, but it will cost money to do. But libraries do have a future. When you hear people say, "Oh, look, people don't do books," well, people still do books, and they do all kinds of other things. There's also places for students to go and study, especially when they get to BECE level. So you've got the facilities there that you're providing, and hopefully we'll be able to get that through in the next. Well, if we buy the land this year, it'll probably take another 3 years before we actually go ahead and build it. It will be also provide community services as well. So we're combining that with some services that will also be provided upstairs from it. Now, a couple of issues that I've got to tell you about. Our response to planning applications in the last couple of years has not been up to standard expected by our community. We have lost our director who's gone somewhere else. We lost our manager. We have a new director. We've employed 12 new staff members in the planning department to cope with the demand. And so we apologise for the fact that you might know people that have been held up from building whatever they have in mind to build just on very simple sort of grounds of having to have something stamped that it wasn't stamped quick enough. So again, apologies for that. So we now have 46 staff members in the development services, surveyors, planners. The cost of providing the service in this budget will be $5.78 million, which is partially offset by fees and charges of $3.85 million from increased applications and higher state set fees. The government would not allow us to put up some of these fees for many years, so we're actually losing ratepayers' money providing basic services. This will offset it a bit. The total cost to the community for providing development services proposed in this budget is $1.93 million, which is 2.5% increase from last year. Like other parts of development, Bayside has experienced a significant growth in planning applications as the impact of population growth. We've had 140,000 new people coming in the last 12 months. We've had 100,000 over the last per year over the last 10 years, so we've had over 1 million people coming to Melbourne in the last 10 years. Now, whether you argue in favour or against the numbers, we have to provide services for them. That's why the traffic is so bad. London can cope with 13 million people because they've got a great train system and underground system. We have to start thinking about putting real money towards it. We're not getting our fair share of money from the federal government. We're getting, I think, 70 cents for every $10 we put in. The money that from our taxes, the money goes to other states, particularly Queensland. So we need to start thinking about that as well. We are the fastest growing city in the country right now and one of the fastest growing cities in the world. So we really need to put in real money towards infrastructure, otherwise we're going to be in a gridlock situation. Now looking towards the future, 2018-19 budget, which is the one after, will invest $5 million at Chillip Street for 4 additional basketball courts and $1.4 million at Boss James Oval in Hampton. Council is also in the planning stage for a new library in Hyde, which I mentioned to you. Also in Hyde, we're going to get 4 hectares of the open space at the former Syro site. And again, Andrew Rowe made sure that Council received this land for free. I wanted to mention something that's written here. We also, we haven't made a decision yet, we're thinking about the netball for girls. The facilities at Thomas Street are really old. There's one indoor court and maybe 8 outdoor courts. The other day we had an incident on the indoor court. There was a storm event on Saturday at 11:30. And unfortunately, water leaked through the roof and the girl sort of slipped and hit the back of her head. She's okay, didn't have to go to hospital, but we certainly don't want to have that happen again. So I've asked the CEO to look at doing more than just a patch-up job on that roof. The thinking right now, and there's nothing to be decided, is that we have to find another location for netball. We will be thinking about building 12 courts somewhere else first, and then the indoor court will come later. the indoor court, a couple of indoor courts will require a much higher number of users before that's financially sort of viable or, you know, arguable. So I'm really excited about Bayside Council. I've been on council since 1987. I won't bore you any further, but I do actually enjoy being on council. We've had some really good councils. When Ken was on council with me and John, it was a different type of council. I think with John's council was a difficult council from memory. Ken's council was not as difficult. The one we have right now is probably the best council I've been on, only from the point of view of how people get on with each other. Luck of the draw. You elect yourself, but you can't help what the other people get elected. We've been very fortunate. We're getting on really well. We only have one female councillor, Councillor Castelli, which is unfortunate. We'd like to have more. She's a really positive influence on council. She's friendly, talks to everyone, and seems to make councillors that sometimes have been a bit grumpy get on better with each other, which is a great thing. So it's been a very positive thing. So thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. I'll take questions if you like.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex, for telling us the plans of council. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. I'm sure you've got lots of questions for Alex. Yeah.
I see in the leader last week that there's an 8-storey building being approved for Church Street, just short of Mail Street, just leading into the shops. It seems pretty excessive for that part of the world, 8 stories.
Yeah, well, we certainly think it is. I mean, it hasn't come to council yet. The building that's there now is not heritage listed. I'm writing a letter today to a concerned resident. Council was involved in 2 studies, the Alan Lovell study and the one that we did in 2007. And neither study, it is an old building, but neither study thought it was worthy of retention. That does not mean it should be replaced with 8 stories. We have a big issue right now with the Minister Wynne. He will not give us any mandatory height controls for activity centres. I know that the Liberal Party has been promising all kinds of stuff. I spoke to David Davis at a conference. He was a very decent sort of guy, and he said that they will not, give us a blank cheque for mandatory height controls. He thought Hampton might have an argument why we should have mandatory height controls, but I think it's going to be a struggle, whoever's in power, because the public servants will tell them what to do, and it's going to be hard to get that. 8 stories is certainly not what we're looking for, and council we'd like to see 2, 3, 4 stories max in that area. So, yeah. Goes to VCAT though. It's, as you know, in Hampton we've had an 8-story that went to VCAT and the 4-story height thing. It was actually refused, but it's a luck of the draw with VCAT as well.
What about height, Alex? 9 stories.
Bay Road actually does have those big blocks of land, so I think that 6 or 7 stories in Bay Road is something that is not completely out of the question. What council is looking at is actually what they're doing in Melbourne and Sydney, the cities, and that is, if let's say there's a 4-story height, which is discretionary height wherever, and the developer comes up with 5 stories, we would like to see them throw in 10-15% social housing, which is what the Lord Mayor's doing in Melbourne now, which means that they can have the extra level, but they're going to have to hand over a number of apartments to Port Phillip social housing program, whoever, to then make it possible for young people to actually be able to live nearby where they work, because it's impossible these days to do.
And I had a question. Those who live at Bayside probably in the last few days have just got their rate notice.
Yes, I got mine too.
And you've indicated, well, I hope so.
I've got mine delivered to me by hand, don't worry.
You indicated, and we think it's good, that it's been set at 2% or 2.5%.
2.4 I think it is, we put in the waste management
But isn't the increase in funding received through the valuation of the land, which has gone up dramatically in the last 30 years at Bayside, and
It doesn't work that way.
it still keeps going?
I'm happy to refer to our accountant. It actually doesn't work that way. I know it sounds great, but it doesn't work that way. We don't end up doing it that way.
But every 3 years, the property is revalued.
Actually, it might be every year now. The state government will do it every year because they want to pocket some of the money. Trust me, we're not running out of profit. Whatever money we
Oh,
had,
I'm talking about, I
Yeah.
think it's marvellous what you're doing
yeah,
with all the land and with the CSIRO. A lot of people didn't understand where the CSIRO
Graham Road.
place was in.
Yeah.
Off the Peon Highway where,
It's in Hyde.
Hyde.
Yeah, just off Bay Road.
yes.
Between Bay Road and Hyde Road, it's called Graham Road, and it's a narrow rectangular shaped block of land that used to be an airstrip, I think.
It's the former CSIRO site of mechanical engineering, which has been merged into something else now. Yes.
Yes. Paul.
Two questions, if I may. The first one is, how many new properties has Bayside got has received in the last, say, 5 years?
Can't tell you that. I don't know.
Do you have any idea?
No.
So you must be getting a good revenue from that, an income from that, for new properties.
Yeah, we also provide services for them.
Oh yes, yeah, but most of the services are there. But getting on to services, you know the new development of 100 odd properties off Jack Road, between Jack Road and Reserve Road, and just going off Park Road. There's a big development there, behind Park Road Hardware, many might know it. Now, the question with that is that the vehicles using that have been going backwards and forwards on Jack Road. Jack Road is absolutely atrocious now. The road is broken up from one end to the other. My question is, do you get any recompense from the developer who's no doubt caused all that damage? Or does the ratepayer have to pay?
The developer now has to, for big developments, has to pay a small levy that we put in the open space reserve. So we have money in the bank that we can't use to build things, but we have money there to possibly buy open space or buy car park space. We haven't done it yet, but there is money there, so that's how they do it. But I'd like to see more community return for big developers. I asked this one fellow a couple of months ago, so, it's got the VCAT 8-story something, and I said, well, what community benefit are you bringing in with this VCAT revised application? He said, we're keeping the gum tree. I said, right, so you're keeping the gum tree. That's good, but I mean, what other community benefit are you giving us? That was it. I said, what about the social housing business? He said, I don't have to do it, do we? It's not legislators. No, it's not. So
The problem is we've still got to repair the road, or the council's going to have to repair it.
yes,
Sure.
but footpaths is different. They will pay for the footpaths.
Right.
If they damage our infrastructure, they've got to pay for it. Normally the footpaths get done by the developer. Did you?
Yes, I was interested in that. What kind of population growth have you seen over the last 5 years in this Bayside area?
We don't have a huge amount of population growth. And that's a good point. We've got about 100,000 people. It's gone up a bit, but not enormously. What's happening is that we have high density, but not a huge increase in numbers. So you've got people that will buy themselves a 3-bedroom apartment or 4-bedroom, and they have 2 people living there. You've got people that have empty, they buy investments. Yeah, as you know, there are Chinese investors can buy only new off the plan, properties, apartments. So you've got densification, but you haven't got the increase in population, which is a problem, really, because you've got a lot of people who would like to move into the area, but they can't afford it. But you've got buildings that are not necessarily that full up with people.
Do you have a number of for the places that are unoccupied
No.
all the time? Do you have any clue? Certainly a number of the properties on Beach Road, the ones with lions out in the garden, look very empty to me, and have done since they were finished 2 years ago.
No, I don't have that. But look, in actual fact, there was an article in The Age last week which sort of was putting pressure on older people who live in big houses to give up some of their rooms for people that need housing. I just thought that was a bit over the top. Because, if you want to stay where you are, you're not really... So there are issues with what expectation as well.
Or letting them. I mean, we have a housing shortage, and prices of property keep rising. Bayside in particular, big huge rises in the price of property.
Council is starting a campaign against the Labor government right now about what is called the Housing Renewal Program. We have Housing Commission flats. We have some in New Street, some in Bluff Road. The ones in New Street, the proposal from the government is to hand them over to a private company. There's 127 apartments there, 1, 2, 3-bedroom apartments. The proposal is to give the land to whatever company. They'll come back with the same number of apartments plus 10%, so 127 plus another 12, be about 140, and then they'll build 250, 300 privately owned apartments, which then they will sell at a profit. And we have an issue about the fact that there are 35,000 people looking for housing commission flats in Victoria. That's the conservative estimate. And this is going to deliver across the whole state 100 more apartments, newly built. But it also will deliver thousands of privately owned ones, which are going to be sold at a profit, which is fine. So we have an issue about what the Labor government is doing. We think they should provide a lot more social housing. Council plan, your council plan, we just supported a month ago, says that we do want more social housing. The residents of New Street get on well with the people that live there, and they wouldn't mind seeing some more social housing. What they don't want to see is, it's now 3 and 4 stories. The government will put in 9-story high apartments, and it will be mostly privately owned. So we think that there's an issue about affordability and about availability of public housing, we call it. Yeah.
Yes.
Just the big problem about parking around railway stations. I realise the railways are responsible to a degree for that, or certainly to a large degree. But the way the parking is spread out from stations, the limitations on parking all around everywhere is an infringement on the livability for all the normal citizens to pay rate.
Yeah.
And has the council got any plans for producing parking stations to solve this problem?
A couple of
They
issues.
can be income producing, they don't have to be free.
Oh no, we don't want to put any parking meters in Church Street.
No, parking stations that people pay for, because they probably drive from down the peninsula to park at Sandringham.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be a free parking.
We are aware of the fact there's a huge, there's a chronic shortage of car parking, particularly in Church Street right now. Couple of issues. We're trying to sort of see what the most efficient way is and most affordable way is to go forward. We're introducing what are called pods, which you might remember, maybe John will as well. Pods are basically these electronic markers you put, on the car in the space, and it will tell you when the car's got over time, and it will notify the bylaws officer. No, I know it sounds like draconian, but all we want is to have a turnover. So you've got traders that will be able to have more customers, and you don't have people taking advantage of the car space for too long. I think it's about a fundamental leeway, and then it will notify the bylaws officer you've gone over. We think that's going to improve the availability. We're also looking at a project that might provide more car parks. Council can go 2 ways. They can decide to put the money in their pocket and build, say, double-storey car park at your expense, which is my personal way to do it. The other way is to actually say, look, there's a block of land there with car park, we'll hand it over to a private company who will build a number of levels and give us more car parks. We did that once. We did the study at the back of the post office in Church Street. And it didn't, that particular time, it wasn't viable, because they were going to build 3 levels and give us the same car park space as we have now. So we thought, well, there's no gain. So they're looking at something else now. But it is an issue.
Yeah, just on that.
Just going back to that question of parking. I live in Carew Street over here. And in the past year, the number of cars that park in that street is gradually coming up past our house to the end. Now, I understand you can put a time limit on, but is that desirable when you can't get somebody coming to see you to park?
I know. Look, I absolutely support that. I understand where you're coming from, but we only have 2 options. We don't have the space or the money to build car parks everywhere. The other option we have is to put time car parking, which is going to be a nuisance to you because you live in that area, and you're going to have issues with people sort of coming to your house for a party and they get fined because they only give you a number of those stickers that you can give out to your family and friends. It's an issue.
Another question which I already had before was, you actually control who looks after the roads.
We control the residential roads,
Okay,
but not the big roads.
okay. Well, over here and next to the police station, a couple of months ago, they had all these people doing roads. They laid the top level on one of the lanes there, on a perfectly good lane, which nobody uses, but on the other side, on the western side, which carries in quite a lot of traffic for a lane and is in very poor condition, nothing happened. And that was the same thing off Carew Street. A perfectly good road had another layer put on it. What is the way?
Well, I mean, officers had their own criteria. I'm surprised to hear that. I thought you were going to tell me that a utility came in, like, you know, electricity or something, and dug up a beautiful road, which they do all the time, and they have the power to do it. They'll wait until you resurface a road. They'll come in and make a mess of it, and always leave you with at least that much of a gap, so that your bump becomes a bump over the road. That one I thought you were going to come up with.
Doing it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Just coming back to the parking at train stations.
Yeah.
We're trying to encourage people to use public transport.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had to go into town for a meeting at 10 o'clock and I wasn't coming home till about 3, so I needed a long-term park. Sandringham, Hampton, Brighton Beach, and there's never anything at
Church Street.
yeah, or North Brighton, there's never anything there. I could not get a park, nor at Hyatt. And I eventually came back to Brighton Beach and somebody happened to have moved out and I got a spot. But if we want people to use public transport, you have to have the parking.
And I don't think we'll get a lot of support from the state government. We're not an area that's growing like Casey, the city of Casey, or Whittlesea, which has got 250,000 people and growing. I think we'll have to be our own money, ratepayers' money, to have to do that. So we'll have to either build two or three deck car park, or buy more land. We nearly bought this block of land off Carpenter Street for car parking at the back of just the back of Church Street, and we had a reserve of 4.2, and it went for 4.5. So we didn't buy. We probably should have bought it because you know they don't come up all the time. But it's not cheap that way. But as I said, we got the money saved up for that use. But there's no. We haven't got a master plan because really we don't own the land. If you happen to sell something in Church Street or off Church Street, we might think that's what we will buy it off you, but maybe we'll buy something off Hampton Street as well, but it doesn't come up. You know, we don't have a master plan that covers all that. But we know we need car parks, additional car parks in most of our shopping centres.
But at train stations, multi-storey makes good sense.
It does, but that's what I think too, and it will be an argument or debate we're going to have within council, because the other option is to come up with, give the land to a private developer, but in the end you don't get much more car parks and you end up with more density, so it's just...
I'll interrupt here and just say, as far as car parks, to go into the city, if you use the car park which is next to the one across here, next to the Croquet Club entrance, that is all day, and Bayside residents don't have to pay. If you're not a Bayside resident, you do have to pay, and it's like, I don't know, $15 a day. But as a Bayside resident, you can park in there all day, and it's no further to walk from that car park, at least the southern end of it, than it is from walking from most of the residential areas further up over the level crossing.
Yeah.
So use that one. It's one that many people here today use that for their parking when they come to this meeting. Those of you who have complained about the parking, that's the car park to use, and providing you're a Bayside resident, you can park there all day free.
So I know we're on the same subject, Alex, but we're going to experience in the next 2 years Cheltenham and Mentone stations all going out of action, and the cars that normally would go to park at those stations are all going to come down to Sandringham and Hyatt and Brighton Beach.
Yeah.
I know it happened before, it's going to happen again, At the moment, Philip, you have to be down at that car park at Sandringham before 7:30, perhaps before 7.
That'd be
It'll
about
come
right.
down about 6:30.
Before 8 o'clock in Bay Street, there's the big track lane you can still go, and in Bay Street, Brighton, there's actually, I don't know if you know, there's an ANZ Bank, used to be an ANZ Bank on the roundabout. There's actually a basement car park behind the old ANZ Bank building at the roundabout of Bay Street. But you have to have coins, it costs about $6 for the whole day, but no one knows about it because you go into this basement. Yes.
I'm interested in the current battle going on in Bay Street in Brighton.
The what, sorry?
A battle in Bay Street in Brighton where there's an application in for a 3-storey home. The mysterious, I suppose you'd call it aged overlay on these buildings that they can't be more than 2-storey. Do you know anything about it?
Well, I don't think we've got mandatory height controls for anything. The thing about Bay Street that is a saving grace is that a lot of it is heritage listed. So you've got that, you know, Victorian front facade. It hasn't saved us from the Coles building, but that's still not 10 stories high. But that's a bit of a sort of a control over what can be built there, because Bay Street's got more heritage dwellings than any of the other streets we have.
I mean further down towards the beach.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
Well, towards once you go past New Street, you've got the 2-storey height controls.
What governs that?
We've had that for forever. We actually, and it's respected by VCAT, and that is something that we've been able to control, except for the fact that on Beach Road they built that weird 3rd level, which is meant to be not really a level, but it is.
Do you think it's sustainable? I'm just
Yeah, I think it
intrigued
is.
that it's not.
It is, but pressure is mounting. There's a proposition for 6 stories on Bay Street, diagonally opposite the New Bays at the pub.
Yes.
Yeah, they're building, right on, that's the border. New Street is the border between the two levels and what you can get.
Speaking of borders, do you ever have any disputes with the adjacent councils, argy-bargy over various matters?
Not really, no, look, it's been, we usually, right now we're having a big issue about Pennydale. I don't know if you heard about Pennydale. Yes. Pennydale is Cheltenham, and about sometime last year they decided they wanted to be called Pennydale, and you know, we'd be supportive of it. So we had a similar issue with, as I said to you, when Bayside Council amalgamated, we got a bit of Cheltenham, a bit of Moorabbin, and people that live in what is now Hampton East they actually lived in what was called Moorabbin, and they wanted to change that, and we have supported them. The people in the state government supported them, and they're now called Hampton East. Their property values went up 20%, which is fine. We don't. It didn't cost council any money, so I didn't mind at all. So the same thing's happening with Pennydale. They want to change it from Cheltenham to Pennydale, but we have to follow due process. You know, so that there's no debate between council. There's more within the municipality. You've got sometimes people who want to call themselves something else.
Yeah.
Could you tell me what's happening with that block of land on the corner of Bay Road and Reserve Road?
Oh God. Well, I'm not an RSL member, so you're better off asking RSL members about that. As far as we knew, council was approached by the RSL at least 8-9 years ago, and they wanted to sell, which they did, the RSL at Beaumaris, and then buy something where they were going to build a beautiful sort of centre that would have a theatre, would have entertainment, and would absorb the pokies from both Hampton and Beaumaris. That's all we knew. We actually changed the zoning for them because you're not allowed to have pokies within 500 metres of housing commission flats or schools. So we had to amend that to allow that to happen. And I am told by my fellow councillor, who is an RSL member, that at this stage they're wanting to sell the land and then pay off whatever debt Beaumaris has and pocket the money. Yep. That's what I've been told, but I'm not buying into it because it's worse than council politics.
I thought that the council might be interested Ferguson's seen that place.
No, we haven't thought about that. It's not sure what they want for it. I think they want in excess of 15 million, but I'm not, don't quote me because I'm not sure. If we had a use for it, I mean, if you needed to have a strategic reason why you want to buy that land in that location.
Multi-storey car park.
You've got Southland there.
Alex, when I was on council, which was from 2000 to 2006, every year we used to talk about the debt and servicing the debt, and I know that it caused some discussion, also in the newspaper columns, the local paper. Why should council have a debt? But it's good that it's been wiped off, and the only way I could speak, we never budgeted, as far as I remember, there was never a line item which said pay off of debt, but it's been reduced, and so the only way that I could see that it would be is that council didn't spend all of the money that it allocated each year to the various services and capital projects. And so there was a surplus at the end of the year. So the ratepayers paid, and instead of spending 95% of it, sorry, they spent 95 and not, has the deficit been possible by using that 5% year on year, so that now we're almost at the point where it will be wiped out?
I can't tell you exactly where the money's come from, except for the fact that we've saved $6.1 million from staffing operational expenses. So that's been.
So you budget for it first, then fire the people.
No, we haven't fired anyone. What it means, though, and John would know what that means. I mean, instead of 5.5% increase in expenditure, the increase is still there. It's 2.5%. So somehow it is a saving from the 5.5% projected expenditure. So don't worry, it's still going up a bit. It's not.
Don't mind, it's good that it's being wiped out.
Yeah, but look, we can't do a zero increase because the truth is that, we've contracted most of our services out to companies. We don't actually have gardeners anymore. Those people will come back to us every few years, and we've never had a decrease in their contracts yet. They come back and they always want a bit more, so that's going to come from somewhere. The labour costs haven't been, as you probably know, labour costs have been contained. In fact, I went to a conference the other day, and it seems that we were better off in the 1990s because the cost of living was much lower and we were getting paid less money. But today, labour costs are not, wages are not going up that much. That's part of the problem with what we have. There's no inflation, which is a good thing, but there's also not a huge amount of demand because people are not actually making that much money to be able to buy things. And so I think that we're dipping into our savings now to be able to go and buy. So that's not a good thing either. So I can't say it's the demand from wages, because it's not. We were having 4.5% wage increases with the enterprise bargaining. I think it's about 2.5% to 3% now. So that's really not the main issue. It's, I mean, we want to spend money on pavilions now. We're doing that, and anyway.
Yes, no.
Thank you very much for your address. It's been terrific to hear all these very open statements from you. One question about the waste disposal and the Four Corners program recently. Do we have any problem with that in Bayside?
Very good question. A couple of councillors asked that question at a briefing the other day. We haven't had any problems at all, but we're doing a little audit, make sure that the glass and all the other waste is actually going in the right location. But we're doing an audit. But we haven't had any problems, and we don't think we will, because they're actually paying us to get the waste. So we don't think they'd be throwing it away if they're paying us, but you never know. So we're actually doing a little investigation of that.
That's the recyclables they pay for.
Yeah.
And now charging.
Yes.
Now charging for glass, anything like that.
Well, I think we pay something to have the thing picked up by our contractors. But I was told by Stephen White, the director, that they actually give us a small amount of money to actually get the glass and those recyclables. So we don't think they're doing something untoward and just putting it in landfill, unless we do the wrong thing. If we put rubbish in the wrong bin, they're not going to manually take out that. So if we do the wrong thing at our level, then it will go into the landfill if you don't put the glass or those things in the right bin. But we are doing an audit.
Yes.
I read in the paper that the government is thinking of changing the way people apply for permits or people object to permits, calling it Vic Smart. Are you able to enlighten us on that?
Yeah, they're doing, I think for some standard sort of, if you're doing units, you're going to have to go through the same program that you're going through now. If you're doing, say, an extension or something, I think there is a way of making things a bit more quick. But I can't tell you any more and give you more detail because they're doing it now, I think, on small stuff that you want to do to your house. Yeah. And we've got 13 more members of staff now, so hopefully they will sort out the delay we've had in the last couple of years.
Alex, you mentioned earlier planning staff and getting more people in. In my days on council, that was the fastest changing department ever. I don't know how many, I think there were 2 directors was in my 6 years. I know they've changed since. But what is the average life of a council officer staff in the strategic planning department?
Can't tell you about it still hasn't changed. It's the gift that keeps on giving. There's always something that doesn't quite work out over there, and it's just the way it is. I wish I could tell you more stuff.
It was less than a year at one stage.
Yeah,
a person stayed. The average time in the department was 1 year. I just wonder if it's changed at all.
I think it's a bit more there. I think what we do is that we have people that are part-timers. You know, I mean, they've had kids, they want to, you know, so we have an issue about sometimes they'll come back and work 3 days a week. But their file, whatever file is, whatever they're looking at, stays with them. So if you take 4 or 5 days off, you'll come back and people waiting for you to put the stamp on. They're still waiting for the same person to put the stamp on. So we try to change those things.
Well, I think we've had, I think Alex has answered all your questions.
I've got one more here.
One more. Phil.
I'm wondering what input did council have to 2 recent decisions which appeared to come from, maybe from state government. One is the slaughter of the Beaumaris High School site and the construction of this horrible monstrosity that's going in. And the other is the change with regard to areas where dogs can be walked safely. All the gates have been taken off. We can't take our dog anywhere now and let it off leash safely.
Why did I let you come up with one more question? Done so well without the dogs. The first one we had no input, although council is happy to have a new school built. The second one, you know the arguments why we're having little gates open, so I don't have to go there. I can only tell you that people are worried about that, but we don't have gates near roads. So the problem we had was that not your dog, I'm sure, but other people's dogs sometimes will not be doing the right thing, you know. And so what we had was working bees of parents every Saturday morning with plastic bags picking up poo because their kids were ending up with shit on their face. So all you need is a handful of parents, of owners who actually don't do the right thing. And so we were told by council officers, we're not changing any of the off-leash laws. The off-leash areas stay off-leash. But you're meant to be within actual control of your dog. So we thought if you have a couple of gaps, and the one in Cluden Street, in Williams Road, is William Street. It's actually very small. There's only 2 little gaps. So we don't want the dog to go out, but we're expecting the owner to be close enough to the dog so that the dog doesn't sort of roam freely. What was happening was that you would, especially in some other ovals, not your one of course, is that you would just let people go in, have a chat with other people, and the dogs go and do whatever the hell they want. There's, you know, holes dug, there's poo left behind, and they don't get picked up. And we've actually had, I'm in near Hurlingham Park in East Brighton. It's magnificent. You could eat off that grass now. It's that good. It really is. And people, all you need to do is just be a bit closer to your dog. So I'm concerned that you don't think you can take your dog for a walk into the oval. Which one is it you're looking at? Banksia?
McDonald.
McDonald Reserve.
McDonald, okay. Well, I've been there, and you don't feel safe that you can walk your dog and be sort of still
Well,
watching it.
It only needs something quite unusual that attracts the dog attention. It doesn't matter what your degree of control is. You can't be 100% sure that the dog won't.
But you're meant to be in control. Look, we're not going to convince each other. The ovals are there. The ovals are there for active sport with off-leash allowed as well. So the active sport would be, you know, the football clubs, the soccer club, cricket club. So those are the users who were saying to us, look, we're sick of having dog shit on our kids' faces. Can we do something about it? And that's what we did, and we've had support from, there's 11,000 people with dogs, I think I read that. I think it's about 200 or 300 people that don't like it, but everyone else seems to be happy with it. So might have to sort of adjust yourself to that.
Alex, you don't have dual citizenship, do you?
Yes, I do actually, but I'm allowed to do it because I'm not a federal member of parliament.
I was just thinking the same thing. If councillors had to be Australian citizens with Ghana and allegiance, about half of the councillors in the whole of Melbourne would be out. Certainly I wouldn't. I have dual citizenship, and Alex. So
my kids have 3 because my wife is American. So when they were born, Donna, my wife, went to the US consulate and registered them as US citizen born abroad. So when they go to the States, they use their American passport. When they go to Europe, they use their town passport. When they're here, and you know what? They love it.
I'll now ask Andy Coogan to propose a vote of thanks to Alex.
Alex, for your presentation today. It did cross my mind listening to every word you said that as we're all locals, nothing could be more important to us than your words on behalf of the community. Last night I was driving around Beach Road and I said to my wife, isn't it wonderful to live in this area? And it really is a beautiful place to live in. Judging by all the marvellous projects and things you've been telling us about this morning, it certainly, our neighbourhood seems to be in very good hands. So thank you again, sir,
Thank you.
for giving us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.